Hello, thank you for being in a new video. This time I have an unboxing of the Galaxy S23 FE. Let's get started. It took me a little while to bring you this unboxing, so forgive me, I failed you, but it's here. Its launch price in Mexico is $12,999 for the 128GB edition. On the screen you see the reference price in dollars to give you an idea, but remember that the prices here are not the same as there. There is a 256GB edition, which is exactly the one I'm going to try. And this one costs $14,499 at its official launch price. Having said that, let's uncover it. And let's be honest, there's not going to be a lot of content in this box. But don't worry, right now we're looking for something to talk about. Immediately we are faced with the cell phone that has a glass finish metal frame, feels pretty solid. It has a very similar look to the entire Galaxy series. It is very reminiscent of the Galaxy A54, but it definitely has a very different feel to the touch. Especially because of the metal frame. Frame which, by the way, comes covered in plastic, so let me peel all that plastic off. So we already have here the device without any plastic. And the frame has a very nice matte finish. Honestly, it's a device that looks good and feels good in the hand. Let's put it on power and see what else comes in the box. In this piece of the box, there's absolutely nothing left. And in this piece that's left on the lid, we are going to find a little bit more content. Don't expect much though. Notice how we're just going to have quick guides, better known as the paper slips of a lifetime. And we also have the tool to remove the SIM card tray. And finally the cable, which is from USB-C to USB-C. With a length we could say short because it doesn't really seem to be a very long cable. Obviously the charger you're going to have to buy separately, as virtually all current Samsung devices. That will undoubtedly be one of the biggest criticisms and what we like least about this device. The fact of having to buy your charger separately can definitely annoy you a lot. Although remember that it is a device compatible with the power delivery standard, so you don't necessarily have to buy the original charger. You can perfectly buy another charger that is power delivery and you will still have a good experience. So that's all that comes in the box. We're going to save these contents and we'll see you right away with the cell phone when I'm done setting it up. And that's it. The device is now configured. And the first thing that strikes me is that the wallpaper is intentionally too dark on Samsung's part to try to hide how big the bezels are. Let me change the background to make it noticeable. From this point on, it already starts to show it's a considerably large bezel, still taking into account the metal frame it has. So it's not your priority to have a very extended utilization by the screen on the front. Remember that this device is more focused on taking advantage of all kinds of specifications at a considerably low price, considering it's a Samsung device. And in fact, in the market in general, this is possibly one of the most recommended purchases for anyone who is looking to purchase a device in this price range. But let's start by taking a quick tour of its specifications. It has a weight of 209 grams, thickness of 8.2 millimeters, aluminum frames. So as you realize, in the design it incorporates good materials, although not necessarily an ultra-premium design due to the use of the front. But other than that, the design is very good. We have glass back cover, and it has IP68, so it can be submerged and it resists dust. All these features that I just mentioned are not very usual in devices of this price. That's why it stands out. But it's not the only thing that stands out. The screen is Dynamic AMOLED 2X of 6.4 inches with Full HD plus resolution and 120 Hz in its refresh rate. In fact, in addition to reaching up to 120 Hz, the good news is that if it is adapting, then in static content it is going to reduce to 60 Hz so as not to consume so much battery. Or you can set it to 60 Hz at all times. If you want to give high priority to your battery life, then it's a very good quality display that also comes with a feature that Samsung calls Vision Booster, which means that when you are under the sunlight, the screen will turn its color slightly different so that you have a better display. So it's definitely a screen that is spectacular wherever you look at it. It has very good brightness. excellent viewing angles, saturated colors. So the screen really doesn't disappoint, and in fact it's a screen that surprises in this price range. It also comes with stereo sound, which is another very good feature, although this one may be a bit more common in devices of this price. The front camera is 10 megapixels with f2.4 aperture. Obviously 10 megapixels may not sound like much to many people, but remember that these are considerably large pixels. Here is an example of the preview before taking the picture, where we have the background completely burned out. But notice how after taking the picture, we have not only a better balance of highlights and shadows, but even better color. So really the camera gets to behave very well, and those 10 megapixels are high enough to have a good level of detail in our pictures. In fact, believe me, it has more detail than many other devices that have supposedly 16 megapixel cameras, or even some that say they have 32, and then the level of detail is very low. Here with 10 megapixels, I think the level of detail is considerably high and the quality is good. Although it is a fixed focus camera, this will be one of the cuts compared to Samsung's top-of-the-range devices that offer us front camera with autofocus. In this case, if you are too close to the camera, you could get out of focus. And on the back, we have 50 megapixel main camera with f1.8 aperture and optical stabilization, 12 megapixel ultra-wide angle camera with f2.2 aperture, and telephoto camera with 8 megapixels and f2.4 aperture with optical zoom 3x. In other words, it has no marketing cameras and has exactly the configuration one needs. No gimmicky cameras, all the cameras are going to do just fine. And I've got some pictures here that I took as a test. For starters, this is a 50 megapixel picture to show you the level of detail that you can get. And it really is very high resolution, so you can crop your photo while maintaining good quality, or you can see more detail in your photo. Although obviously this must be enabled manually because the photos will always be 12 megapixels. This is a picture with the ultra-wide camera, which gives us much more panorama, as you can see, and it has a very good color rendition. It looks very similar. And finally, this is a photograph with the specific camera for zoom, which is 3x. And the maximum zoom it allows us to get is 30x. And notice that it looks very well detailed. In fact, at 10x we also have a very good photograph. So without having to spend too much money, this device already offers us a very good photographic system. Believe me, there are other manufacturers that even in their more expensive devices have a worse zoom. And it surprises that Samsung from this price range is giving us this quality zoom. Very good. Congratulations, Samsung. In addition, this device has the ability to record video in 8K. That's another amazing thing because in this price range, there are some devices that even have the audacity to not be able to record in 4K at 60 frames per second. So this device still goes to even more capabilities, going up to 8K. The battery is 4500 milliamps and the charger is sold separately. I think these 2 points could become its weakest points. The battery does not seem to be of a very high capacity. The processor is possibly also one of its controversial points, so it will be in question how efficient it can be to take advantage of this battery, and the separate charger is sold separately. So all these points are definitely the weakest we can find in this device. But in the full review that I will upload later, I will tell you more data about the battery. But as a first impression, does not seem to surprise much. On the contrary, it seems to disappoint in this section. But the good news is that it does support 15-watt wireless charging, and it even supports reversible wireless charging. These types of features are also unusual to see in devices of this price point. So again, another of its strengths. There are versions with 128 or 256 gigabytes of storage. I have the one with the most storage, and in this case it has 15% already used. As you know, Samsung has one of the heaviest systems, so without having installed anything we already have 38.64 gigabytes used. That's a huge number. A very large operating system, but it also adds a lot of features that you could enjoy as a user, but this is the price to pay. In the review that I will upload later, I will tell you some of the features that the device comes with so that you can consider if they are useful for you or just using space that you could use for something else. The device has 8 gigabytes of RAM and also offers the RAM Plus feature for virtual RAM. The good news is that you can turn it off because personally I would recommend you do that, as for me it's unnecessary to enable it. But I'm going to leave it on to see in the review what is the behavior that Samsung brings by default. no headphone jack. It supports 5G networks and Wi-Fi 6E. It comes with Android 13 and One UI 5.1. This is excellent news because we could practically say that it comes updated from the factory and also has a promise for many years of updates, something that very few manufacturers can promise you in this price range. And finally, the processor is the Exynos 2200. This could be another of the controversial points because it is not a processor that is very loved in the world of technology. But anyway, let's test what would be the performance it can give us through this test application. We will come back when it is finished. And here are the scores: 1611 on single core and 4020 on multi-core. The truth is that it was quite surprising, although you know that this is just a reference, but the real performance will be seen in the video review, where we will also test games and multiple applications. For now, it has simply been a quick look and a tour along the specifications of this device. But if you want to know it in more depth, I invite you to wait for the video review. For now, we have reached the end of this video. If you liked it, you know you can tell us about it, and we'll see you next time.